Welcome to the Real Stories channel. Come discover amazing stories. At a certain point, Saulo decided to make Manuela's dream come true and take her to see the ocean up close. He planned a vacation at one of the Miami resorts and, having a close friend, offered to accompany them on this adventure. Saulo told his daughter the great news. "Thanks, Daddy. Now I'm finally going to learn to surf," shouted a happy Manuela for having chosen one of the local airlines. Saulo, together with Lara and Manuela, flew towards her dream. They just had a great time in this paradise. The three bathed in the sea, played in the sand and enjoyed the city a lot. The vacation flew by, and it was time to head back to Chicago. Having made himself comfortable in his economy seat, Saulo relaxed and tried to sleep, but getting some rest wasn't in the cards for him. Until Manuela went to him and lightly touched her hand. "Dad, I saw Mom up front with a man in business class," said the concerned girl. "How could you have seen your mother, dear?" "You know it's impossible to have seen her." The man's heart started to beat faster at that time, but he didn't care much about what the girl said. A few seconds later, Manuela kept insisting that it was really her mother that she saw and no one else. Saulo then asked his daughter to show a picture of her mother. To everyone's surprise, Manuela confidently took her to the business class session, where Maria was seated next to an elegant man. Upon seeing her ex-husband and daughter, the woman's face immediately changed and turned pale. So, taking her lover by the hand, Maria tried to pretend that nothing was happening, but of course she was unsuccessful. "How am I to understand this, Maria? Maybe you've forgotten, but you still have a husband and daughter who went through all the grief of your death and dealt with all the financial problems caused by your disappearance," Saulo said loudly and angrily. Maria tried to give some answer to Saul's accusations, but Lara, who had just reached them, would not allow her to do so. "I will be obliged to contact my colleagues in Chicago and Miami, Mrs. Maria, to question you. I'm sure you don't remember committing such crimes against your husband," Lara explained firmly. When Lara stopped talking, Maria's mask fell completely. The woman understood that her scam had been discovered and that there was no point in her continuing to pretend. Sometime later, it was confirmed that Maria had intentionally faked her own death in order to run away with her lover and live a happy new life. The unfaithful wife used the loan money to buy a beach house and live like an amazing businesswoman. Meanwhile, Maria never thought about the trauma it caused her husband and son. Fortunately, thanks to Manuela's vigilance and the help of the police, once they arrived in Chicago, the cheating Maria got what she deserved. Now she will answer for her crimes and pay for everything she caused in the lives of Manuela and Saul. Meanwhile, the two, along with Lara, will live a happy life with no secrets between them. If you liked today's video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hope you have a nice day and see you later for more fascinating stories. Saulo looked anxiously at the photo hanging on the living room wall, unable to contain the longing he felt for his wife. 2 years ago, his beloved Maria had died in a terrible car accident. That rainy night, she lost control of the vehicle and collided with the support of a bridge, falling into a dense forest. The car was found 5 days later, all dented, but Maria's body was not there. Experts assumed that her body was swept away by the strong current of the nearby river. For a month, they searched the bottom of the river for a radius of several kilometers, but could not find her. For Saulo, everything seemed like a terrible nightmare from which he could not wake up. His 6-year marriage to Maria was filled with love and understanding. His youngest daughter, Manuela, only 7 years old, was his pride and joy. Neighbors and friends even envied the precocious intelligence of the girl, who already knew several classic songs and loved to read. Whenever they finished a book, the first thing they did was discuss it together. Now, sitting in the kitchen with tears in his eyes, Saulo recalled the wonderful times before the tragedy that rocked his family. Back when everything was still quiet and her life was planned for years to come, Maria was a successful businesswoman who achieved it all thanks to her exceptional intellect and determination. The woman's fortune was worth 6 figures, which automatically put her alongside some of the most successful people in Chicago. But after her death, it Turns out that her money was withdrawn from her bank account shortly before the terrible accident. Furthermore, the young businesswoman not only sold her business to her competitors, but also took high-interest loans from the bank. The most painful part for Saul was that he didn't know anything about it. Now, he couldn't believe that his wife made him and their daughter bankrupt. "How could you do that, Maria? Why did you take all your money and sell the business? Why did you have to do that?" whispered the miserable widower to himself, crying silently so as not to wake his daughter. But the real problem started a month ago, when Saulo received a call from the bank, being informed that the payment due date on one of the loans had passed and that he needed to make an urgent payment. Of course, the widower didn't have that kind of money, so he was worried about how to get that amount. The emotional pain, the feelings of resentment towards his wife, the fear of the unknown, all rolled into a snowball that turned Saulo's life into hell. The man did not know how to tell his daughter that her mother was no longer alive and that she would not return from her business trip. Now, the calls and letters from the bank about paying off the loan were a constant part of Saulo's life. With a lot of effort, he managed to borrow some money from his parents and sell the car to make the required payment. Leaving Manuela alone at home with a book, Saulo went to the supermarket to buy something for dinner. But upon arriving home, he found the house turned upside down, implying someone was looking for something. The worst was yet to come. Saulo found 4 of his children empty and Manuela missing. The father shouted in a trembling voice, "Manuela, daughter, where are you?" But all he got in response was complete silence that was occasionally interrupted by the ticking of the clock on the wall. At that moment, the phone rang. Stumbling over all the things scattered on the floor, Saulo ran to answer the phone. He was surprised to hear a fawning voice of an unknown person on the other end of the line. "Hi, Saulo. You must be surprised to get this call. Your wife owes me a lot of money. 3 years have passed and I still haven't heard from her, but I'm not used to losing my money. So your daughter will have to stay with me for now, until you return the full amount with interest," said the mobster on the other end of the line before hanging up. Saul was stunned. "My God, Maria, where are you?" he exclaimed. Of course, he had already realized that his wife had borrowed money from some dangerous people, who did not value human life as something precious. Saul was not willing to negotiate with criminals. So he went to the nearest police station and told them everything that had happened. The duty officer sent the worried man to talk to Lara, who worked in the organized crime department. Having heard Saulo's confused story, the officer calmed him down and promised to help. Lara remembered the case involving Maria's mysterious death very well and was practically the only one in the department who thought that she might still be alive. Of course, no one listened to the young policewoman at the time and considered her hypothesis to be a figment of her imagination. Eager to help Saulo, Lara planned a special operation to stop the people who kidnapped little Manuela. Fortunately, everything went well and the girl was unharmed. Manuela didn't even understand what happened. Everything felt like an adventure to her, like one of her books. The criminals were arrested and immediately taken into custody, as they were guilty of some sins that could land them several years in prison. Sadly, Manuela's rescue did nothing to shed light on the strange circumstances surrounding Maria's death. 3 years passed very quickly, during which Saul paid off all his wife's debts and started a new life. Of course it was very difficult, but the poor widower had no other choice. Saulo remained in contact with Lara, who continued to work in the organized crime department. The two started hanging out and it was obvious that their friendship could turn into something bigger at any moment.